Welcome to the Atlanta Men's Workshop speaker and workshop recordings. Atlanta Men's Workshop is held every spring and fall at the Rock Eagle 4-H campus in Eatonton, Georgia. That's just about an hour east of Atlanta, Georgia. Please visit our website at atlantamensworkshop.com or see the link below to find dates and details to join us. Partial scholarships are available to those in need. We hope you enjoy this presentation, and we hope you will come join us at the Rock. Until then, we shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
Hey, I'm Ladd. I'm an alcoholic. Dude, I suffer from this thing where I cannot stop thinking about myself. He gave me a break thinking about myself. Thank you. So I kind of want to give you guys some insight. I've shared this story with one or two of you guys, but just sort of what this thinking looks like. So I was sitting there, I think it was a Sunday night a couple weeks ago, and I get a phone call. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's one of my buddies in recovery. And sitting there with the wife, we're watching a football game. He said, hey, man, congratulations. You're going to be the speaker at the Rock. First he said the Sunday speaker. I was like, this, no way, man. But dude, my mind thought maybe this could be possible. And he said, no, the Saturday morning speaker. And so I had two thoughts that came up. Two thoughts. The first one was, it's about time. And no shit, I thought that. And right after that was, oh my God, how am I going to be able to do this? Right? Like those conflicting thoughts. And I sat there for a couple minutes. And by the time I thought myself to death, I stood up and almost passed out in front of my wife. And that's the kind of stuff I've walked around with my entire life. You know, feeling like I'm on guard, never comfortable around other people, and constantly thinking about myself. So, yeah, I'm an alcoholic. So when I start, I can't seem to stop. But I have a mind that always tells me it's okay to start again. It tells me stories. It'll be different this time. This is why. So I grew up in Eufaula, Alabama, and seemed like a pretty normal childhood, and had two loving parents in the house. Childhood was pretty normal. I do remember my first, I'll say this, I was in third grade, and we had an Easter egg painting competition, right? That seems pretty harmless. I paint my Easter egg, they pick my Easter egg, me and 5 people, and go up to the front of the classroom, and I was just struck with this, oh my God, like they don't like me. They're not going to like my Easter egg. And I just remember that feeling of not being able to fit. And I carried that through my whole entire adult life until I was 40 years old. But at some point in high school, I found a solution to that. It was a really, really good solution. That was drinking and starting to use drugs. And that freed me from thinking about me. I didn't know that at the time. Thought I was having a good time, but I'd found something that helped me be around other people, to let me feel okay about myself, to that worry of, like, am I cool? Did they think what I said was just cool? Like, that kind of shit is something that is always going with me. So, moved up to McDonough, Georgia, Henry County, in high school. And ended up going to college at Columbus State. And, it became pretty apparent there were things that were, I don't know, man, they just seemed to come really natural to me. And, those things were, like if there was a responsibility, if there was something that I needed to do and handle, that seemed really hard for me. It always seemed really hard for me. And I saw other people going through and studying for tests. And, I remember, there was this thing with, that I had to fill out the application for college, right? And I remember my parents just asking me all the time, and like I just couldn't do it, man. And like my mom had to sit down with me and do this application. So these little things, these little responsibilities that everybody else seemed like it was pretty easy for them to do, I couldn't do it, or I struggled with it. I would put it off. So end up going to college, and that's when sort of the drinking took center stage, or it just became a continuous thing every night. Started running these things like going to jail. Went to jail a bunch of times in college. Failed out of that's somebody told me to tell the truth when I came up here. That wasn't the whole truth. So I went to college in Mercer first. I failed out of there the first semester. Went to junior college, somehow made it through that. Then I went to Columbus State. So that's the truth. Ended up graduating from there after 6 years. It took me 6 years to get through there. Actually, so I played baseball, and so I had this thing where if you were on scholarship, like if you didn't graduate on time, they would keep you on scholarship until you graduate. And it was like that last semester, and the guy, like the dean or somebody, came up to me and was like, "Dude, you got to get out of school, man. Like, we can't keep paying for your school. So could you please get out of school?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, man, I'll do that. Not a problem." But I met a girl. That's the thing, man. I meet a woman and I kiss her, it's over. I'm in love with her, like, immediately. And so that happened. She became pregnant, and we ended up having our first child when I was 23. And moved to LaGrange, Georgia. That's where we live now. And ended up getting a job. And man, see, with the like having a son at the time, like I love I love that child, but it became a pattern that I couldn't show up for him most of his childhood. Even when I was around him, I couldn't be with him. So ended up getting a job in town, and started drinking alcoholically. And it was this thing, man. I always hung out with people that like to have a good time. And but it was weird. Like, we would be out till 10, 11, 12, watching ball games, doing the kind of things that we do. And I would see them go home, and I would see them go to work, and I saw people pay their bills, and I saw people show up to their child's baseball games and activities, be present with their family. And that just was not something that came natural to me. It was, when I did that, it felt like I had to force it with all my might to do that stuff on a consistent basis. There was this pull of always wanting to do what I wanted to do. And that got me into so much conflict with life. I was working at a bank in town, drinking pretty much every day, and met somebody who started bringing me opiates to work, these hydrocodones. And I thought, man, it's pretty cool. Like, I can work, don't have to drink as much. And about 3 months, didn't have any, and started going to opiate withdrawals at work. And I knew enough about myself to know that I was in trouble, that I wasn't going to tell anybody what was going on. And, that went on for, another couple of years. Also had a habit of getting jobs, doing really well. And right before I got fired, I would just get another job. So ended up getting this job at a car dealership in town. I'm a full-blown opiate addict. I had run up $20,000, $30,000 in debt around town, borrowing money. And they ended up sending all these bills to my wife. And I'd had them going somewhere else. And she called me and she said, "What's going on?" And I said, I remember that phone call. And I said, "Yeah, I'm a drug addict. I'm addicted to these opiates. I can't stop taking them." And, we hatched a plan. She was going to give them to me every day. I'll give you your 1 or 2. That didn't last very long. That went away pretty quickly. And I came out of work one day, and my mom was standing there, and thought that was odd. Went home, and the family was there, and that wife told me, "You can go to treatment and get some help, or you can leave." I didn't hear that, by the way. I really didn't. I thought she said to leave the house. And I packed up and left. It was only years later when we were talking, I was like, "Well, why didn't you give me a chance?" And she was like, "We had this conversation. I asked you if you can go to treatment, you can stay, or you can go." And I was, man, I didn't hear that. I did not hear that. I heard just get out. And so, I lived in the Red Roof Inn for 6 months. Things progressively got worse and worse and worse. And then I met another girl, and, that ended up marrying her. And, while she was pregnant, I started doing, that's when amphetamines came into the picture. So now it's vodka, opiates, amphetamines around the clock. And man, what I did to her for the next couple of years, it was pretty bad. I went to a person, I could put on a good face for a little while, and it seemed like we were happy. But while she was pregnant, I go into psychosis. I've got recording devices all over the house, recording her, thinks she's having affairs on me. She's just pregnant, thinking, what the hell is wrong with you? Where did the person that I married go? And our child was born. Things at work started to go bad, so life was slowly, it was pretty rapidly at that point going downhill. And our daughter was born. She's 10 years old now. And, my life was in shambles, and wasn't sleeping, for a week or two at a time. And these things had been showing up for a long time at work, but they were really, really bad at this point. And, I got the talk that I got for the same talk 3 different times, in an 8-month period. I'd never been fired from a job before, and this talk kind of came a common theme, "Hey, lad, we love you, but you can't work here anymore, man. We don't know what to do with you, and you got to go." And, bounced to another job. Actually, I went to a detox for, 7 days, came back, was high again within a day. And that job actually hired me back 2 months later, and they fired me 2 months later after that. So anyway, got a job in Auburn, Alabama. And, this time it was just a matter of time. And I felt that feeling of something's about to happen. I don't know what it is, but something really bad is about to happen. And, I got that call into the office, and lad, we love you, but you can't work here anymore. And I sat down and told that guy, for whatever reason, I said, let me tell you some things about myself. And I kind of shared with him what was going on in my life. Don't know if that helped, but it was the first time I really talked to somebody about it. And funny thing is, my brother has been sober for, I think, 10 years now. He had gotten sober about 1.5 years and gone to MAR in Atlanta. And sounds funny, but this is what I thought at the time. I was like, man, if that guy can get sober, like, I got a chance. Because he was like the only person that I really met that drank and did drugs like I did. And he was sober about 1.5 years, and I'd met him 2 or 3 times, and he seemed happy. And so I got some hope that maybe I could have something like that. At this point, fired for the 3rd time, hadn't paid the mortgage in 7-8 months. So the house is going into foreclosure, having to file bankruptcy. So all these external things are going away. And I go off to treatment, leave my wife with a 1-year-old with a house going into foreclosure. And, I get to MAR, and I learned met some awesome people. It was a great place. Learned a lot of the basics about recovery there. But I stayed there for 9 months. I got a sponsor, met with him like twice, and, stayed sober around a bunch of sober guys, but didn't do any work. And got back home, was going to 2 meetings a day, and I called my brother and said, man, I don't know what's wrong, but I'm thinking about committing suicide. And he laughed at me. I didn't think it was funny, but he laughed at me. And he said, well, you can do that. You can drink and do drugs again, or you can go ask somebody to sponsor you and take you through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I did that night. And it's funny how these things happen. The guy had just taken another job and said, man, I got 6 weeks I can spend with you. And he came. I didn't have a car. He came and picked me up every day, took me to the clubhouse, and we went through the book. And through the process of that, I had a spiritual awakening. And man, like I was floating around, just feeling life was amazing, right? Did amends with my old job. They hired me back again. Dude, life was really good. And so, there's the thing, having a spiritual awakening, spiritual experience is one thing, but growing and maintaining it is something altogether, or all different altogether. And, it went to work got important. I'm now going to 3 meetings a week, now 2, now 1 every 2 weeks. And before I know it, I'm at a doctor's office with another prescription for hydrocodone, and then another 1.5 years. And so coming to that point, I'm doing all the drugs again, going back into psychosis again. Now what's different this time, had a job, had money in the bank, and something broke inside of me. And I actually made a call to a guy at MAR. I don't know if he even remembers this. And I said, hey man, I've got to get sober. I'm about to lose my wife. I'm about to lose my job. And he said, man, I hear you, but I don't know if you can get sober that way. If I were you, I would get down on your knees and ask for help. And I did that. And I don't know if I can describe the feeling of just being exhausted. But suddenly I became willing to follow directions and listen. got a sponsor. He lives in my same neighborhood, and I became willing to go to meetings, sit down with him, go through the book, and the same thing has happened in my life that happened the first time, except for the fact that I know today that I've got to show up and move my feet in recovery every day. Like, this thinking is the problem. And it's just, like, I don't know how it never would make sense to me to say you have to act your way into to better thinking. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. But when I start following directions and these things start to happen in my life and my life starts to change, what can you say? It's a great way of life. He told me, we're going to go to retreats. We're going to go to this one. We're going to go to the Heavy Hitters Retreat in January. And first time I was at the Rock, I think it was 2021, and the uncomfortability and me just sitting there thinking about myself and what you were thinking about me was so bad that on Saturday night I finally had enough and walked up to another man and said, I'm so scared of you guys. I'm so scared of what you think about me and what I'm wearing, what I'm saying. It's killing me. Like, what do I do? And we talked for 45 minutes. And I found another guy asking the same thing. We had conversations. So finding out that actually saying those things and becoming vulnerable are the things is the way to get free. Never would have thought of that either, man. My old thinking is I go through life, I try to look a certain way, and I'll try to hide from you, make you think that I'm somebody I'm not. And it's a paradox. When I actually tell you the truth about myself, something starts to happen, and you and I get closer. So that's something that's happened to me through just being willing to follow directions. Thank you for letting me share.
I've learned if I'm sitting in this room, I'm a miracle. Thanks, lad, for a great story. And the next speaker is I don't know if there's such thing as a double miracle, but he might qualify if there is. Phenomenal human being. Can't wait to hear his story. It's truly amazing that he's walked through it, what he's walked through, and has got years of sobriety now and is doing the deal. And I'm looking forward to hearing what Tim has to say. Come on, Tim.
What's up, Brock? How y'all doing this morning? My name is Tim, and I'm an alcoholic. Just to qualify myself a little bit, my sobriety date is 3/2/16. I have a sponsor. I sponsor guys. I have a home group, 12-Step Titans. Where you at? I know you're here. So I'm going to talk a little bit. And my story starts in the greatest city that God ever saw fit to create, New York City, Brooklyn, New York. And Georgia. The story starts like this. I was running a very lucrative import-export business in Brooklyn. I did not pay taxes on that, so I'll probably have to make amends at some point for that. And my shift was over, and I went to my favorite place, which was a third shift old man bar, because those guys that went to that bar were there for business. But when I walked in, and by the time I hit my seat, my drinks were up on the bar because they knew me so well. And I spent probably, I really don't know how long I spent there that day, because I blacked out and I woke up 3 days later in Delaware. I woke up in a strange apartment with one shoe, not knowing where I was. And I know some of you won't believe this, but this was before phones had internet. So I had to walk down to the gas station and ask the guy legitimately what state I was in. And he told me. And then I begged him to use his phone, and I called my cousin. And it's about a 4-hour ride from where we were to Delaware. And I sat on that curb in front of that gas station with no money and one shoe, watching people walk by me looking down disgusted. And I promised myself on that day that I would never drink again. I was like, this is too much. I can't do it. And I'm done. I've done everything that I wanted to do in this arena, and that's a wrap. My cousin picked me up, and for 4 hours I had to hear it from him, which was not the most pleasant car ride I've ever taken. And that Friday I was back at that same bar telling that story like I had accomplished something that nobody else could ever do. And it was the greatest thing that I had. We're going to fast forward a little bit. I jumped you can imagine the shenanigans that I got into. If you want to hear some stories, find me. I'm here all weekend and I'll tell you some. But this talk should be more about solution. So we're going to fast forward a little bit. I jumped city to city and trying to find, like, obviously New York was the problem. I wasn't the problem. So I went to Philly, and then Philly wasn't the problem. I wasn't the problem. Philly was the problem. So I went to DC. And finally one day my brother called me and he said, hey man, I'm getting married and I'm down here in Atlanta, but I'm getting married in Philly. Can you come down and help me? And I was like, sure. So I came down, and I knew Atlanta. This time I knew that I had found my new home. Atlanta was not going to be the problem, and I was going to flourish. I helped my brother for 5 months plan and get married. We went to Philadelphia. We came back, and he told me the next day, he's like, hey, I have to move to San Francisco, and I was all alone, and I sighed a sigh of deep relief because then I had no accountability. Fast forward a little bit more. I'm living on MARTA at this point. And I thought I was winning because I had flipped the schedule. So I would walk around for the 2 hours that MARTA didn't run and then ride MARTA all day, end up at the Perimeter Mall, usually beg enough money to get like some cheap vodka in a plastic bottle. And I was killing it. Like, I didn't have any account. The only thing I hated was there's this one stop where all the kids would get on because they would take the MARTA home, and they always woke me up, and I was like, how rude are you to come into my living room and like make all this noise? Like, don't you see I'm trying to do something right now? So one day I overslept, and this dude like shook me and woke me up. And I used to tell this story, and I used to say he asked me a question, but he told me something. He said, you need help, come with me. So I was like, I know I can get some food or some money out of this dude, so I'll go. Yeah, sure, I'll go with you. I don't really care where we're going. And he took me to an AA meeting. He took me to an AA meeting, and that was on March the 2nd, 2016, and I haven't done any drugs or alcohol since. Now, that doesn't mean that I haven't raised the standard for my life, because this program starts when the drinking and drugging really stop. And I don't want to diminish the fact that the first year was horrible for me. I woke up every day for the first 90 days with the smell of cocaine in my nose. So we're going to fast forward to so I ended up in a sober living, and I got a sponsor. I'm doing the thing. I'm going through steps, and we get to step 9, and it's a bunch of me and my homeboys going through the steps at the same time. So it's like amends time. So, I go to my friends and I'm like, hey man, I'm really sorry that I cheated at FIFA that time. And he's like, don't worry about it. You're good. Because he knew he had to make amends to me too, right? So it's like easy amends. I'm like, sweet, this is awesome. I did have a roommate though, and, 2 alcoholics living in close proximity will always have friction. And one day he came home and he was like, I'm sick, and he went to Grady, and then the next day they cut out his trachea because he had stage 4 cancer. And I was like, well, I'm super sober and I'm going to do something about this. So I went to work the next day because I was running the intake office, and I delegated all my work, and one morning I raised like $6,500, and I got the guy a voice box, the electronic voice box, so that he could speak again, because he was writing everything down, and it was really annoying because he had bad handwriting. So he would give me notes, and I'd be like, I don't understand this, leave me alone. But I was super sober, right? But in actuality, I didn't do that for him. I did that for me to show everybody how sober I was. And so the time comes to make amends to this cat. And I got a script from my sponsor, and I told him all the things that I'd done. But in my head, I'm thinking like, bro, I gave you your voice. Like, there's nothing that you can say to me, right? So the last thing that you say at the amends and the script that I have is, you know, is there anything else I've done that I'm unaware of that I've caused you harm? And for 45 minutes, the dude that I gave his voice to ripped me a new one. And I had to sit there and listen to it and not say a word. And I was like, I don't know, man, this is tough. But so we're going to fast forward a little bit more. And a couple years later, some guy came up to me and was like, hey, man, you ever sell drugs before? And I was like, yeah, I've sold drugs. And he was like, cool, you're going to come work for me. We're going to go to Waffle House after this meeting and we're going to have a talk. And I was like, all right, cool. So we went, and that really, like, that's when I knew AA worked, but I didn't truly believe in the power of AA yet because I hadn't seen it. But this guy gave me a job, right? Gave me a career. And, you know, I'm there for like a month. I'm kind of killing it. The guy was like, he was like a real hard boss. Like his saying was, if it ain't perfect, it ain't right, you know? And I'm new, I'm trying to figure things out. And, so like there's this white noise going on about this thing that's happening in the world, and nobody knew what it was. And then on a Wednesday, this guy calls me up and he's like, don't come into work tomorrow. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, day off. And what had happened was COVID hit the world, and they had to let go 75% of the company that I work for. And at the time I was, you know, last man in, first man out. And I was like, I'm done for. Like, I had left my job at the recovery place. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a license. I didn't have anything. And I was like, there's no way that I'm going to be able to, you know, maneuver through this. And AA showed up. The guy called me back and he said, we're going to make a deal. You're going to come live in my basement and you're going to work for free. And I was like, work for free? Like, you come up with a better joke than that, right? So then I called my sponsor, and he was like, well, what do you think about that? And I was like, did you not hear the part where I said work for free? But sure enough, the next day, I walked into the president's office, and I said to him, I was like, you know, I just want to work for you. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's coming in and cleaning toilets, but I'll work for you. And that wasn't me that was speaking. That was AA that was speaking. The steps in AA has taught me what relentless consistency looks like in my life. And when I can be relentlessly consistent, the things that happen are beyond my comprehension. So I worked for 3 months for this guy, and they put me in the warehouse, and the warehouse guys all knew that eventually I was going to go back to it's like front of the house, back of the house if you work at restaurants. So anything that they didn't want to do, they gave to me, but I'm stubborn. So I was like, you won't break me. Like, give me everything that you don't want to do, and I'll do it. I'll do it better than you. That's my good alcoholism coming out and my ego. So, you know, eventually, the guy that got me that job moved on to a bigger and better opportunity because he's the man. He's probably the best that I've ever seen in my industry do what he does. And I got the opportunity to be an outside salesman. And so I was the first person in that company to go from inside sales to outside sales to complete the cycle. I was the first one to do it. And once again, that's not because of me. That's because AA taught me what it's like to be relentlessly consistent. So what I found out is that outside salesmen have some free time on their hands sometimes, and it's awesome. So I got a phone call from one of my buddies that was in sober living with me, and they were like, hey, your roommate is back in the hospital. So I was like, oh, I got lunch. I'll just stop by and see how he's doing. And for like 3 or 4 days in a row, it was in Northside Hospital. I would stop by and go see this cat, and like, you know, it's one of those things, like, unfortunately in my life I've been around death a lot, and you can see like when it's time, and it was definitely time. And you know, he shriveled like 98 pounds in the bed, and couldn't talk, obviously. So I just went and I sat with him, and we put on like MASH reruns, and I was like, okay, that's what you want to watch. But on the third day, as I'm leaving, the nurse stops me, and I was like, finally, the promises are coming true. Like, I knew that if I did AA stuff, the promises would come true, and here it comes, right? So she grabs me, and she's like, hey, you know, I just want to let you know that nobody else has showed up for this guy. And the fact that you did has made all the difference, right? So I was like, cool. I didn't really know what to say. So I walked out, and then the next day he passed, like he transitioned on. But AA gave me the opportunity to be there for that. I have one more. Yeah. So now what it looks like today, right? Today, the president that I walked into his office had left for another opportunity, and he called me right away and he said, I don't want anybody else in this position but you. So I'm like, cool, that sounds awesome. So I left that company and I went to work for a new company. You know, sponsoring guys and being in AA is something that has taught me so many lessons about life. It's taught me that struggling is a privilege. It's taught me that raising the bar in life is a privilege. When you get to the standard, there's another standard. And it's a privilege to be able to see that. And it's a privilege to be able to move that up. I want to make this really clear to everybody in this room. I'm not a bad guy trying to be a good guy. Like, I'm not in an old Western movie. I'm not going to go into the bathroom and have a black hat on and come out with a white hat on and everything's going to be okay. I'm a really, really sick person. And the benefit of AA is that there's no limit to how much better I can get. That's all up to me. I can take 0% credit for the game plan. Yes, like, I went from being homeless on MARTA and holding on, and this is a true story, holding on to a single dime so that I would always be able to say that I always had some money, to being the operations manager of the Southwest for a, you know, $750 million company. And people look at that and they're like, how did you do that? And I can take no credit for the game plan. The game plan is the 12 steps. But what I will absolutely take credit for is my willingness to do whatever I was told to do. And my ability to learn how to be relentlessly consistent. Like, when you apply those things, things happen that you can't quite explain. I can't quite explain why I have the quality of people that I have in my life. I can't quite explain why, you know, a guy took a chance on me. And that's what it was. Like, he took a chance on me. And for somebody who has burnt it all the way down and gone through that, when you get that chance, and if you do AA, you will get that chance. My suggestion is to grab onto it and take it as far as you can go. Like, if you're not taking it as far as you can go, you're just squandering the opportunity. And you never know where it's going to go. Like, I have a wife and a dog now and a house. And, you know, so to rewind, because this is a real funny part, I didn't have a legal license for 18 and a half years. I had cars. I drove a lot. But I didn't have a legal license for 18 and a half years. And during COVID, the guy I was working for was like, we're going to sort this out. And I was like, okay, sure. New York is closed down because my license was suspended out of New York. And every day he'd be like, did you call? I'm like, yes, I call. I have PTSD from hearing like hold music. Like if I hear the hold music, I start shaking a little bit. So then this guy, you know, it's a privilege to have people in your life that push you to the next level of a standard. Because I would call and I'd be on hold for 3 hours. I would talk to somebody and they'd be like, we can't do anything for you. That department's closed down. Click. And I would tell the guy, I'd be like, yeah, man, I was on hold for 3 hours. He's like, call again. Talk to somebody else. And if it's not perfect, it's not right. If you're not giving 100%, then you're not doing the job. And that's what the steps have taught me. You know, it's given me an ability to be present in the moment, but to give 100% effort to whatever's right in front of me. And for, you know, those guys that know me, it really boils down to just chop wood and carry water. Like, what's the next thing? Whatever the next thing is, whether it's, you know, being a good husband to my wife or being a good friend or, you know, being somebody who, for reasons unbeknownst to him, has a mentor to be a good mentee. Like, apply that. And, you know, it's a privilege. AA is open to everybody. It's not at all, you know, it's totally inclusive. It's not exclusive at all. But the opportunity that I had is the same opportunity that everybody in this room has. When people find out about my story, like Bill said, I was a double miracle. And, you know, when normal people find out about my story, they're like, is that really true? And I'm like, yeah. And they think it's unbelievable, but the power of the steps and the power of AA makes it totally believable. And I believe the reason for that is the same reason that the first word and the first step is we. Because while I was the one that went through all that, it was everybody in this room's success. And that success can be duplicated 1,000,000 times over. It's just chop wood, carry water. Don't worry about what comes next. Take the task that's in front of you, grab it, and run with it. And if you do that, I promise you, opportunities in your life will open up that you never expected before. And it's brilliant. I mean, when I was on MARTA, the day before the guy shook me on MARTA, I had gone to Goodwill and I stole a set of clothes to go to a job interview. And I went to the job interview and I filled out the application and I knew I was going to get this job and I knew I was going to get back and I knew I was going to have money and I could just save enough to get a hotel room and I would have achieved everything that I possibly wanted. And for some reason, and I wasn't a big prayer guy, but for some reason that day, I said to God, God, like, give me one more chance and I won't screw it up. And I thought I was talking to God about the job interview, which, by the way, went sideways when the guy was like, what's your cell phone number? And I was like, I'll call you. You don't call me. I call you. But, so I said to God, give me one more chance and I won't screw it up. And I thought I was talking about the job right? But really what God gave me was the opportunity to do AA. And when it's all said and done, that'll be the difference in my life. And it's been such a privilege and honor to be up here to talk to The Rock. I know how much it means to so many people. So I appreciate you giving me your time and have a great weekend.
Thanks, Tim. You know, I love the term the nuggets. And again, those are pieces of information I'll hear in a speaker meeting or just a regular meeting that can change my perspective. And Tim's given me a really good one, relentlessly consistent with my recovery. Relentlessly consistent with the basics of recovery daily. I'm going to hang on to that one. Our next speaker, every time I come down here, and as I told you, I've come a long time, this guy's been coming a long time too. And every time I drive into the gate of The Rock and I'm driving down the street, I know I'm going to see John with his twin brother, Victor. They're not really brothers, but they're twin brothers to me. And it's an example of the relationships, the very, very close relationships that are achieved when we come here and that carry over when we go back into our everyday lives. And so John's a terrific fella. I'm really looking forward to hearing what he has to say. And with that, I give you John.
Buenos bonjour, namaste. Down south they say, hey, and I'm from up north and we say, hey, yo, what's up? My name is John, and after a thorough investigation, I realized I'm alcoholic. And I'm a damn Yankee. You know, Yankees are people from up north. I'm a damn Yankee because I moved down here and I stayed. I sort of like this. But my hope is that the God in me reaches out to the God in you, because we're all here for a specific reason. When Chris asked me to tell a story, to do this workshop, it was a bit overwhelming because I'm trying to live in the present. But my mind says, well, how am I going to present myself? Took me a long time to decide what I'm going to wear. You know, but in and out of worry, in and out of the presentation, I decided to get my favorite cheat sheet. So I'm going to read some passages out of the 12 and 12 and then the big book. But today, I want to offer you something. And at the end, I want to give you a gift. And I'm hoping that you are willing to receive this gift. In the 12 and 12, it talks about the joy of living is the theme of the 12 steps. And I was told, if you're not happy, it's your own damn fault. You know, the blame game is over. I can't point fingers of what happened or what didn't happen, but I have to learn to take responsibility for my own recovery. I've got a loving family and a bunch of loving friends, and I've got a nickname. They call me Buddha. And the story came because my wife and I were going through marital bliss and argumentation, if there's such a word. And she says, you think you're a damn Buddha. And I says, that's because I'm so wise and full of serenity. He said, no, your ass is fat and bald. So my home group, the Heavy Hitters, we meet on Saturdays at 5 o'clock, and some of the guys heard her call me Buddha, so that name has stuck. But I want to read how I usually stay in the step study at the Heavy Hitters, and we start off with the third paragraph at the foreword. And it's an important word. It's a 3-letter word, but during the course of this discussion, I want to emphasize what this word means. It talks about AA's 12 steps, a group of principles, spiritual in their nature, which, if practiced as a way of life, can expel the obsession to drink and enable the sufferer to become happily and usefully whole. That word "can" is a very powerful word, and I'm going to use it again and again. I got sober when I was 37 years of age. I've got 35 years of sobriety. I'll be 73 before I realize it. And if I knew I was going to live so long, I would have taken better care of myself. And on step 3, it talks about maybe how we came to recovery. So it is by circumstance rather than by any virtue that we have been driven to AA, have admitted defeat, have acquired the rudiments of faith, and now want to make a decision to turn our will and our lives over to a higher power. So I didn't come into AA because I thought I needed some help. I was literally running away from that lifestyle. You know, I had written in my first 12 and 12 that I would be a success when I could say yes to everything in my life. Yes, I can go to school. Yes, I can be happy. Yes, I can commit. That word integrity is real important to me. And I can be honest to you guys, and I'll show up if you need me, but I, for a long time, have cheated myself out of personal growth, internal growth. So I know that I can be a success once I say yes to everything. So on page 89, it talks about, boy, I had a cheat sheet in here. I can't even find my cheat sheet. Okay. Many AAs go in for an annual or semi-annual house cleaning. Many of us also like the experience of an occasional retreat from the outside world where we can quiet down for an undisturbed day or so of self-overhaul and meditation. Now, it's very difficult to be quiet with a group of 400 men with all the energy, but it's very possible to go on this retreat and self-reflect for a minute. Take a walk, fellowship, meditate, learn to be still, hug a tree. Now, you may see me hugging a tree, and don't get kinky. It's very soothing, very spiritual, very much breaking the norm of what I like to do. But I think the topic of what I want to talk about, we hear about steps, we hear about traditions, we talk about concepts. In the 9th step, we talk about the promises. And there's promises in the 5th step, and there's promises in the 10th step and in other steps. But I want to change that language and learn about the offerings of Alcoholics Anonymous. I got sober, like I said, 1990, and I had a good 20-year run before I got here. Atlanta and Georgia has been real good to me and real good for me. This is the only place I ever lived where I never used. So it's forever in my heart. It talks about on page 93, here's this word again, we can try to stop making unreasonable demands upon those we love. We can show kindness where we had shown none. We can begin to practice justice and courtesy, perhaps going out of our way to understand and help them. We can promptly admit to ourselves always and to them also when the admission would be helpful. Courtesy, kindness, justice, and love are the keynotes by which we may come into harmony with practically anybody. When we doubt, we can always pause saying, not my will, but thine be done. And we can often ask ourselves, am I doing to others as I will have them do to me today? So the possibility of me trying to get better works. If I can just learn to be a success. If I can say, yes, I can. Okay, on page 95, it talks about we can truly thank God for the blessings we have received and sleep in good consciousness. It's really important that I learn that sleep is important. It's really important that I learn how to take care of myself. You know, on page 98, Bill, you'll never have to show me that 5 minutes left. I ain't got 5 minutes of material, so don't worry about it. So you ever watch television? If you haven't sold it already, and try to get it back or get it at the pawn shop, but commercials for insurance, and they talk about get the bundle, get the house, get the car, get the boat, and bundle it together. So on page 98, we've got a bundle, a spiritual bundle, and it talks about there is a direct linkage among self-examination, meditation, and prayer. Taken separately, these practices can bring much relief and benefit. But when they are logically related and interwoven, the result is an unshakable foundation for life. Now and then we may be granted a glimpse of that ultimate reality, which is God's kingdom. Now, we all have different concepts of God, and I'm not here to try to sway you or to convince you, but there is a power greater than myself. And at one time they talked about living in paradise, right? Now, you don't have to believe that story, but there was a place called paradise. And this woman ate an apple, and now we suffer because of, that's a whole nother story. But there's things that we pay for because we choose not to live in a great world, in a great society, in a great personal glory. And that's going to be offered to you in a few minutes. Okay? So it's important that I believe that there is a better way. I like what this says. We can do what I can't. You know, and sometimes my ego says, don't ask for help. Don't tell them what's really going on. You know, but my home group members, my extended family convinced me that it's better to live that truth. So I want to talk about the gifts in step 12. And it talks about having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. We try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. And if you can't practice these principles in all your affairs, you got some nerve. 5 minutes. So if you can't practice these principles in all your affairs, maybe I need to change my affairs. Because it's really easier to practice these principles. These are the gifts. He has now become able to do, feel, and believe that which he could not. He has been granted a gift which amounts to a new state of consciousness. He has been set on a new path. He has been transformed. He finds himself in possession of a degree of honesty, tolerance, unselfishness, peace of mind, and love. What he has received is a free gift, and yet usually, at least in some small part, he has made himself ready to receive it. I'm going to read from my favorite story in the big book. It's called The Keys to the Kingdom. It's written by a woman. We won't hold that against her. The last 15 years of my life have been rich and meaningful. I have had my share of problems, heartaches, and disappointments because that is life. But also I have known a great deal of joy and a peace that is the handmaiden of an inner freedom. I have a wealth of friends, and with my AA friends, an unusual quality of fellowship. For to these people I am truly related. First through mutual pain and despair, and later through mutual objectives and newfound faith and hope. And as the years go by, working together, sharing our experiences with one another, and also sharing a mutual trust, understanding, and love without strings, without obligations, we acquire relationships that are unique and priceless. There is no more aloneness with that awful ache, so deep in the heart of every alcoholic that nothing before could ever reach it. That ache is gone and never need return again. Now, there is a sense of belonging, of being wanted and needed and loved. In return for a bottle and a hangover, we have been given the keys of the kingdom. I want to ask yourself right now and tell yourself, I'm going to open that door. Just say that to yourself. Just open the door. That's that mantra. That's that chant. That's that challenge. Just tell yourself right now, open the door. Open the door. Now tell your neighbor to your left or right, open the door. Open the door. Little louder. Open the door. Open the damn door. Thank you. Have a good day and I love you.